Hello, all you creeps, and welcome back to another episode of the Devil's Cut Podcast, a haunted house of a show full of things that go bump in the night. If it's horrifying, horrific, terrifying, or terrific, we're here to talk about it. I'm your host, currently possessed by a devil, Matt Young, and here with me, as always, is my co-host and best friend, the skeleton everyone should want in their closet,
Eric Rossi.
Tried to change it up this week.
Yeah, that was fresh.
A little new call-in, it's good to keep it fresh, keep it moving,
All right.
Got to change it up every once in a while. I don't want to get stale.
I thought you were doing something special for the Shyamalamathon.
No, I was trying to think of a fun name for it.
Shyamalamathon is it?
Well, I think we're gonna have to save that one for an actual Shyamalanathon.
Oh my god!
Because this is more like a Shyamalan face-off.
Yeah.
I think future episode we're definitely gonna have to do like an all things Shyamalan, right? He's got so many movies.
Gonna have to have an M night.
An M night. The Devil's Cut presents the M night. We'll just do a 24-hour charity Discord stream where we just commentate on every M Night Shyamalan movie.
I mean, speak it into existence.
We don't go to sleep until we've seen every M Night Shyamalan movie.
I won't go to bed till I'm twisted like a pretzel.
That's one of the best Shyamalan deaths. But yeah, welcome back, everybody. Another episode of The Devil's Cut. We are in the twilight years of the wet hot summer.
Twilight days? They call it.
It's all well, it's like the wet hot summer is old now. He's getting ready to pass on. He's ready. He's
leathered.
Yes,
tanned.
He's been out in the sun. He's only actually like 35. It's just been out in the sun for so long. Really, skin cancer is a problem. But yeah, so this is one of the tail end episodes of the Wet Hot Summer, but that doesn't mean we're any less excited about it.
Not at all.
This is another one where we're covering some recent movies that came out. We decided to do a double feature for a very particular reason. So today we're going to be talking about The Watchers, a little film by someone named Shyamalan, which is a crazy name. And we are also talking about Trap by M. Night, the M. Night.
And the other sister.
Do you think he's knighted? Can we get him knighted?
He's
so that he can be like
knighted.
Knight M. Night Shyamalan?
Sir M. Night Shyamalan, the Night.
The Night. Yeah, so two Shyamalan movies within the Shyamalan family, which I was excited about the prospect of one, seeing like a movie done by his daughter. This is her feature film debut. And I'm always excited to see a Shyamalan movie like M. Night. I really liked Old, was I think the one that came right before that. No, Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting that Knock at the Cabin was him.
Well, yeah, it's based on a book, so like it doesn't feel the same.
True. He did write most of his other ones like off the cuff. They're not based on anything.
But that's kind of his dig, right? That's kind of his thing, is that like he is kind of a front runner as far as like originality within the space.
Yeah, and he's back in Form for this one. This one he actually wrote with his other daughter,
Salika. That is Salika Shyamalan.
So Salika Shyamalan is more of a musician.
Yes.
In the family. So she ended up working with him because like music is like incorporated very directly.
It is kind of the core of the movie.
So she's featured very heavily. She acts in it as well. So they got to team up a little bit there. And then Ishana has been working with him for a while now. Like I said, The Watchers was her directorial debut in terms of feature film, but she's been working. She did like 6 episodes of that The Servant show, which is that's an Apple TV series, I believe, right?
And I believe Shyana also did an EP for that too. I'm pretty sure she made music for that show as well.
Oh, that's cool. But in addition to that, Ishana was also like second unit director on both Knock at the Cabin and Old. So she's like, not super like, fresh. She's been in it for a while. Plus, I mean, these kids have been like in the movies like since they were born. They were like on the set of a lot of his films when they were growing up. Like I think one of their core memories is actually Lady in the Water. is based off of a bedtime story he made up for them, and then he turned it into a movie, and they were like on set like the whole time making that movie.
That's crazy. I always forget about that one.
Yeah, a lot of people do because a lot of people didn't like it. I actually really like Lady.
It's not bad.
I'm a big fan. I can see why people wouldn't like it. It's not like super scary, so it's not like people were like, oh, it's like a new Sixth Sense, you know. But it's not really. It's more of like a fairy tale, that movie.
Yeah,
but yeah. So they've been entrenched in the Shyamaverse for all their lives.
From what I caught from the interviews with his other daughter Salika, it's kind of like a whole family affair always. Like their home life is very like art oriented. They're always talking about art. They're always talking about music. They're always talking about film and like how it correlates and kind of overlaps with like life and their own, you know, situations. But I think it's really cool to see a creator be able to impart that to his family and then for them to all work in conjunction like happily. Like seems like a really nice fairy tale on its own, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, everything that I could tell from like reading and watching interviews, the Shyamalan family seems extremely wholesome and well adjusted and not like a problem at all. They all seem like it seems like such a great little story of like how being in the film industry can like not ruin everybody, you know? Which was very refreshing. Although there was like some funny joke, I think it was Ishana was saying in one interview where she was talking about how like, yeah, we're like a pretty traditional, like Indian, Asian, American family. It's just that like, instead of being forced to get forced to be like a doctor, like we had to be artists instead.
Yeah.
I had a really good time researching, but like, both these movies and like learning more about like the Shyamalan family. Again, stay tuned for a future episode. We're going to dive more into M. Night himself, get like way more background on it. Today, we're going to just focus on these two movies. So we're going to start though, right, with The Watchers, with Shyamalan's movie. It came out first. I think it came out in July. And then we're going to go on to Trap afterwards. That one's more fresh on our minds, so we can wait to get to that one.
Yeah.
The Watchers, directed by Ishana Shyamalan, 2024 film, written by Ishana and by A.M. Shine, who is a Irish author who specializes in like folk horror books. He has like I think like a handful, like maybe like 4 I think novels under his belt. There's The Watchers. There's also a sequel to The Watchers, which I cannot remember the name of right now.
The listeners
and they hear everything.
The hearers.
You have to shuffle around this room really loud every night. So yeah, written by A.M. Shine, the book was. It's also starring Dakota Fanning, Georgina Campbell, Olwen Fiore, and Oliver Finnegan. Most of these people, actually, we've seen them. They've got horror credits.
Yeah.
Georgina Campbell, very first episode of Devil's Cut.
Yeah.
She's a barbarian. She was the lead actress. You know, I guess it's hard to say she was co-star.
She was the main character.
Like Bill Skarsgård was not the secondary. He dies so early.
No, he is supporting cast.
Yeah, so she's the main character of, if anything, Justin Long is the second main character. But actually, Olwen Fiore is like huge in horror.
Yeah. Been around.
Yeah, she played old Texas Ranger Sally in everyone's favorite Texas Chainsaw episode. But she also was the old cult lady in Mandy. And she's in a bunch of stuff. She's
been around the block.
Yeah. And Dakota Fanning, I mean, obviously we all know her from Twilight.
Yeah, that's right. that's where I know her from.
Now, what is your Dakota fan? For me, it's War of the Worlds. That was my like Dakota introduction.
Yeah, I would say so. But what more sticks out in my mind is a movie whose name I can't remember, where it was like a thriller when she got like a smidge older. She was in some sort of horror thriller that was like a big deal, and I just remember her like name was all over the news and all over the place when it came out.
She's in a show that I've been meaning to watch for a long time called The Alienist, which like looks really good.
Oh yeah.
And it's always been on my like to watch list. So I got to get around to that. But you know what's really funny with Dakota Fanning is like I feel like I had this weird experience with her where it's like she was all over the place, right? She was in War of the Worlds. She was like the talk of the fucking town in Hollywood for a very specific point in time in my childhood.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she like disappeared, and then just Elle Fanning, like her sister, just took all of the limelight. Yep. And I'm like, wait, I thought Dakota was the big one, but all of a sudden Elle Fanning everywhere. I'm like, when did they like hot swap like the sister? Like, she got a little too old. She's not as cute anymore. Bring in the fresh one.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like for me. I'm like, what happened to Dakota?
Send Dakota out to pasture. She's done. She's 14.
Yeah, too old. She's not cute enough anymore. But yeah, I guess before we start getting into all right. So the plot of the movie, right? You know, the quick trailer of it is, so Dakota Fanning is living in Ireland because the movie takes place in Ireland, right? But she's American. It's not like she's putting on an Irish accent. So anyway, she's this girl, she's living in Ireland. She's an artist, but she like works at a pet shop vaping all day.
Yeah. The worst fucking behavior I've ever seen in a pet shop.
Yeah. And she's got to deliver a rare parrot to somebody in
West
Ireland.
West Ireland.
And so she takes a little road trip with the parrot, gets lost in the woods because her car breaks down, and then ends up finding what is essentially like a shipping container with like a glass window for one of the sides. And there's a bunch of people that live in it. And they say, well, you got to get in here, and you can't leave now. And you can't even leave this, they call it the coop. Mm-hmm. You can't leave the coop until daytime because the watchers, they're watching us. And if you're out at night, they'll kill you. So you're stuck here.
Yeah.
And also she's like far enough in the woods that like she can't reasonably before sundown get out of the woods. So they're stuck there.
So she's stuck.
And then every night they have to like present themselves to the watchers. They can't see because inside the coop, it's like they call it a two-way mirror, but this is a big point of contention in my life.
It's a one-way mirror. It's a one-way mirror.
You can only see through it one way. So it's a one-way mirror. But society is deemed that it's a two-way mirror.
How much time did you spend Googling the difference between one-way mirror and two-way mirrors before this?
None.
This is just the sticking point for you? This is a thorn in your side?
Yeah, it always has been. They're always referenced as two-way mirrors. I'm like, no, it's one-way.
Yeah.
They all, you're seeing the same thing that people looking through the other side are seeing. That's one way.
If anything, it's a one-way glass.
But anyway, so they're being watched every night, and that's kind of like the crux of the movie is how is Dakota Fanning going to get out?
How is she going to fly the coop?
Yeah. That's like the plot of it. What did you think of the movie, Eric?
So I remember seeing the like advertising for it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting, but like the more and more advertising for it I saw, I was like, I think I could probably skip this one. Until Bailey was here a couple weeks ago and was telling me like, hey, that movie, everyone said it was bad. So I was like, gotta see it. Because I thought it was just going to be relatively mid. I didn't hate it. I think in true Shyamalan fashion, they had a kernel of something really interesting, and then when that kernel popped, it essentially just incinerated into goop, and I was like, oh no, that's gross and bad.
Popcorn shouldn't do that.
That's not what that does. It's gorgeous. It's a good looking movie. I gotta give it to him.
Yes.
It's a very competently shot movie. It's gorgeous. The sound design is really cool. I think like visually great movie, but I think just like I said, in true Shyamalan fashion, we don't stick the landing.
Yeah, don't stick the landing. That is a common more it's a more modern Shyamalan trait.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing that I find most interesting about it is that it's technically, it's not a story that they made, right? It's based on a book.
Yeah, by A.M. Shine.
And I just think it's so funny that, like, knowing their reputation of, like, hey, sometimes we really fucking miss these landings, that they would attach themselves to a project and then, not rewrite the ending.
Well,
like they rewrote the ending for Knock at the Cabin Door,
true.
right? And
Well, M. Night did. You know, that was his movie.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that they would do that again and then just go like, don't rewrite the ending.
Well,
don't change anything.
Well, you know, in my research, I did find so she herself, Ishana, read the book because it's actually a relatively new book. I think it came out in 2021.
Weird.
So she read it on recommendation from somebody, and she just loved it so much. She said, like, I want to make this.
Mm-hmm.
She could like picture it so vividly in her mind that she said, I can do this. So I don't think she wanted to really change anything. I think she liked the source material, and which is why I also can't really I'm not going to blame her totally.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's like, I don't think it should be attributed to their
storytelling capabilities. Cause I did look into it, and there are some minor differences here and there, but for the most part, the movie is very true to the book.
I will say it is one of those movies where it feels very obviously based on a book. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, I feel like what's that series? Not Maze Runner. It's the one that's like Hunger Games but at home.
Hunger Games but at home.
Not the we have Hunger Games. It's the
Divergent.
Thank you. You know what I was talking about.
Well, I was just going through like what are the young adult series that had movies.
Yes. There's something about like the young adult novel that when translated to film, it just bleeds the same like energy and aura, and it definitely comes through in this movie where I was like watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, this feels like it's based on literature.
Yeah, so I mean, well, also there is just a sort of, because it's based on sort of like Irish folklore and folk tales, it does sort of have, just by its very nature, a storybook kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
But to your point about it being beautifully shot, I mean, I agree. I think it is a really gorgeous movie, and that we can attribute to Ishana. I saw a lot of interviews where she was like, her filming style, she says is like, I focus on like the maximalist kind of like, I'm all about like big lush sets and like establishing like a big vibe, less about the like minute details.
That's so funny because her father does things exactly the opposite. Her father literally has every single shot storyboarded for his movies before he starts, so he knows exactly what he like wants. And he's very into the like very cramped, very small, very minimalistic.
Yeah. So it was really interesting watching the movie, and then also like reading and hearing about how like her approach to it, and then just seeing like, in real time how different like her style is compared to her dad, even given like how like so tight knit and close like she's worked with him. It's cool to see that she's still able to just do her own thing and have her own style, even when working in the same like genre.
Yeah. I wasn't in love with this movie, but I will say this movie did sell me on her ability. Like the next time, like whatever her next project is, I will definitely check it out, because I'm like, all right, let's see where she leveled up. Let's see what, with a different plot, let's see what she can achieve, because I think she is very, the product she delivered was relatively good.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like to get into spoiler territory, we'll just skip to that now for the movie, because now I want to talk about like some stuff that I thought like didn't work as well. I do think some of the dialogue felt a little stilted, a little janky, I didn't always buy everybody. And there's a reason why. So Olwen Fiore's character, Madeline, she's like this old lady. She's like the matriarch of the group that kind of gives everybody the rules, right? That's like one big thing in the movie is there's all these rules, right, about like what you can and can't do. So there's like, they're in this forest where technology doesn't work. They're stuck there in the coop, right? And there's like all these little holes in the ground, burrows that apparently the Watchers go during the day because they only come out at night. And so one of the rules is you can't go in the burrows. One is don't go out at night. One is like never turn your back to the Watchers. Like you can't like you have to like be looking forward all night.
Yes, you have to be essentially presenting in almost a theatrical stage-like manner to the glass window of the coupe, so that way the watchers can always see you. They want to see your face. They want to see the front side. They want to be able to study you.
Yeah, apparently those rules not in the book. She made that up for the movie to just add some just like clarity and just have like a flat like to have rules, right?
Yeah,
so people are like have something to grasp onto. Apparently that's not in the book, and I think that the idea of doing that, like I appreciate the attempt, but it also was like it also felt dumb to me. Like what like or what?
Yeah.
They eat you. It's like, okay, well, whatever. And I guess we should also just get the big one of the twists. Not even a twist. The reveal of the Watchers.
Twist,
the reveal of the Watchers. They're fairies, right? Mm-hmm. Which for some reason really bothered Spooky Wife. She was like, "That's dumb," and I was like, "That's weird because you're really into fairy stuff." So I thought you would have liked that. But they didn't really the idea didn't bother me. It just, I don't know. I guess I should have expected that it was fairy stuff because we're in Ireland.
Yeah.
You know?
They love the fae.
They're really into fairies in Ireland. Well, actually, they're really afraid of them.
Yeah.
But same thing.
That's their boogeyman.
I guess I was expecting they kind of, yeah. I don't know. I guess I just wasn't expecting it to be like fairy tale kind of horror. So that kind of threw me for a loop. It's not that I didn't like it. It just like really like put me off kilter for like the rest of the movie.
I had an assumption that it was going to be creature based, and like just based on the marketing, there was like some clues in like the visuals that made me go like, oh, maybe it's a fairy thing. But then the way that it's executed, they're like shapeshifters,
changelings. So they're in the lore, they're like half fairy, half humans. Who mostly look like monster fairies, right? But they can shapeshift, and the whole thing is that they are like watching the people in the coop to learn how to mimic being human,
yeah.
Right?
Not just in visuals, but in behavior, so that they can be like a more complete reflection.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty cool. I think it's creepy knowing that like these creatures are watching these people, like their every move, and like learning how to be them. Mm-hmm. And it's actually cool. It's that whole idea is like mimicked throughout the movie, because I pointed out to you while watching, like everything in the movie is all about like copying
and mimicry,
mimicry, because like Dakota Fanning's character, Lucy, I think is her name. Yeah, Lucy. She's always like repeating things she hears on like the radio or something. She's always like repeating stuff.
She's got like vocal tics.
Yeah, like earlier
vocal
you
stems.
get flashbacks to her childhood, and she was like during this like traumatic event, like where her mom and her family were in a car crash because she was being a terrible child.
We'll get to it.
She like, well, I mean, we could just say it. She has all this trauma because she was like being a little fucking nightmare
piece of shit kid,
and she was like mimicking her mom, being like you know,
Yeah.
and then she caused her mom to like go full while driving, like do a full 360 hands off the wheel, like grab the kid, and then everyone's wondering why we crashed into a semi truck. You know, it's like I can't really blame the child for that one. I think, to be honest, I think Dakota Fanning should be pretty guilt-free. I think it's a mom's fault for like literally like just letting the car completely go.
Yeah. Especially when like so she's mimicking her mom and like antagonizing her mom, and she keeps rolling the window up and down, and as the mom is rolling the window up like for good, the kid sticks her hands to try and like push the window down.
She's
but
like,
her fingers get squished in the fucking door, which obviously, it's just crazy to me that the mom wouldn't just then like put the window down.
Yeah, right. No, instead she lets go of the wheel.
No,
turns around completely.
Leave the fingers in the window vise, and we'll just pull the kid out. Like, what are you doing?
It was like a wild. Also, that's one of the parts of the movie that really didn't work for me, is the flashbacks, because they were filmed in like a completely different style.
Yeah,
and it felt like, I know it's supposed to be like dreamy, like it's a dream sequence, it's a memory, but like it just felt weird and didn't look right.
No, yeah,
they totally broke my like immersion of the movie.
Yeah,
which was doing a really good job.
Yeah,
you know, and then we had that, and I was like, oh.
what I liked especially about the location and like the like idea of the coop is that we are introduced to the coop as this like confined space where these 4 humans are essentially being studied by the Watchers, right? They're studying the humans so that they can be better assimilated and they can kind of like infiltrate humanity in that way.
Except they're like that. One of the things is they can't leave the woods.
Yeah, they can't be out in the daytime.
So it's like, why even bother?
But I think it's interesting because the initial, like in lore, in like movie, purpose of the coop being there is so that this human,
this guy who looks just like Alan Wake.
Yes, this Alan Wake wannabe dude who is like a professor of like mythology and stuff.
Yeah.
He built it so that he could go out there and study them. So I think it's an interesting part of that mimicry thing where it's like, okay, you built it to study them, but you put a mirror in it, and now they are utilizing this space to mirror you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean the mimicry and like the copycat nature, the changeling nature, everything. I mean, it's even like the fact that she has to deliver this parrot, which parrots are known for mimicking people. Like it's all very like it's all baked in there, and it's like really cool to see like this very clear like it's just like the through line of the theme is like it's like right there the whole time.
Yeah.
Just for me, I feel like the setup for all of it and all of the like the theme and the motif and everything is so cool. And then for me, the movie, the ending, or like the 5 endings that it has, just kind of like goes, it's kind of like wet farts for me. But again, I can't really blame Ishana for that because I think that's just the nature of the book. And I don't know, maybe I think it's one of those things where this is a rare occurrence, but it was too true to the book.
Yeah.
You know, in a book, kind of dragging things on like that works more because you're in the world, you're in the book, you're invested. It just doesn't work as well pacing wise in a movie. Because like eventually, you know, so they're studying the Watchers are studying the people. The people are trying to get out. There's a couple different sequences of Lucy, Dakota Fanning's character. Eventually she goes into one of the burrows and it's just filled with like shit, like people shit.
Yeah,
you
human
know?
stuff.
Yeah, the whole time, Olwen Fiore's character Madeline, the matriarch character, she's constantly trying to get them to just stay still and not try to escape because she's like, no, you're all gonna die. You have to stay here. You have to stay here. There's another Oliver Finnegan. His character, I forget his name. It's Daniel. He is just like this big weenie the whole movie. He just does whatever anybody tells him to do. So he's constantly being like pushed and pulled all over the movie. Georgina Campbell is like very sad because her husband dies in the cold open of the movie. But she doesn't find out about that until like way later. So she's like very like perky and peppy. And she's like, my husband's going to come rescue us. Yes. And then she's like, oh, he's really dead.
Yeah. It's like this character is, and we've seen this character type in lots of other movies, but it's the like perpetually optimistic, for self-defense purposes, where it's like she just will not admit to herself that like, oh yeah, your husband who hasn't come back still big time dead.
Yeah. And then eventually when they determine they're like, once they get past the point of like, oh, we're stuck here, we really are stuck here, and they go through like their depression slump, eventually they're like, no, we're getting out finally. They discover a like trap door that's just been under the rug in the middle of the room this whole time. And I'm like, you guys have been here for like a year and nobody moved the rug a single time to discover the trap door. Are you fucking crazy?
I just don't believe that occurred. And this might come off as sexist, but I just don't believe that occurred in this small space because all of the women I've ever lived with cannot go more than like, I don't know, 4 months before it's like, I need to rearrange this space.
I mean, that's me too. That would have been one of the first things. A week would have gone by and I'd be like, let's move the TV over here.
Yeah.
Let's move also one of the fun little like gags in the movie is they have a TV. So there's no technology works anywhere in the forest except in the coop for no reason. They say
they are aware that the person who built the thing, the coop, or at least like laid out some things like in the woods, was done by this guy, the professor, who they talk about just by title all the time. But they know the professor has some sort of like power source built into the coop. They just don't know where or why or how it works. So they're just like, whatever, it powers this one TV we have, let's use it. And they have one DVD of this like season of a like schlocky Island of Love style.
Yeah, it's
TV
like
show.
a shitty dating TV show DVD that they have like 8 episodes of. It's so funny, and I'm like, I guess it's not so bad. You know, they got something to watch. But anyway, so they find this like trapdoor, and inside is this bunker that has like, it's this big laboratory that like the professor had built to study the fairies in. And I'm like, the whole time there's like all this food there. They've been like hunting rabbits and shit for like a year, and they're like, what the fuck, you know? But eventually, you know, we find out that through studying the professor's like files, right, that he was there to study the fairies. He had like one captured that he was studying. And then they eventually decide, well, we're gonna get out of here. We're just gonna chart our way. Like they find out that like the professor charted his way through the woods, so there's like a safe path for them to take.
Mm-hmm.
And then they
find out that there's a boat that he's like, I'm never gonna be able to make it to the boat, but if someone's watching this video, that's where the boat is.
Yeah.
Go get the boat and get the fuck out of the woods.
So they make it to the boat. Daniel gets eaten by fairies at like the last second. Like because he's a fucking dingus,
idiot,
right?
He's a fucking moron.
He's a dingus, and so he gets taken by the fairies. We do get to see them. They're gross. They're cool. They're big.
They're gross.
We've seen the design before. They're big, long limbed, tall guys.
Yeah,
they've got the like bug fairy wings like coming out the back.
They kind of look like the mother from
a little bit
Barbarian, but like as if she's eaten less.
Yeah, essentially
on Ozempic.
Yeah,
she's having an Ozempic summer.
So the 3 girls, Lucy, Kiara, who is Georgina Campbell's character, and Madeline, they make it out and they go, all right, they have an awkward bus ride, right? They like hitchhike back and they're like, all right, we're just going to go to the professor's, like, the college that he worked at, right? We're going to go to his office. We're going to get all the details and everything. We're going to send people out there and then wash our hands of it and like be done and we'll forget about it. Then eventually Lucy finds a bunch of photos in his office, and it turns out that the professor was married to a woman who looks exactly like Madeline. And the twist is she was a changeling the whole time.
Madeline, the real Madeline's been dead for 40 years.
Yes, exactly. He was essentially I guess the professor was there essentially to to catch a changeling and train it to be his wife, which is cool.
Cool, but an unhinged. Honestly,
move. I think if there's more focus on that storyline, maybe if we got some actual like on screen like following the professor and stuff like in tandem, that could be cool.
I think the problem area is that we get this huge exposition dump of like pre-recorded information when we find the doctor's files.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been more interesting if we like kind of like pieced that information out over a longer period of time where it's like, okay, we see that he's captured a changeling. We see that he's training a changeling. And then it'd be really cool to have seen like the reveal where it's like, oh, he's managed to get the changeling to turn into his wife. But instead we find out all of this like information
all at once.
Without the reveal of who the changeling is becoming, and then later, after they're already out of danger, then they find out like, oh shit, we took a changeling out of the woods.
Mm-hmm. Now it's in here, and it's also Madeline.
Yeah.
Eventually, Lucy goes to like meet with Kiara to like figure out a plan to how to like deal with Madeline. But then when she gets there, Kiara's acting weird, and then it was Madeline. She shapeshifted again. And there's like this final confrontation, but this is also where we kind of lose me because it's like Lucy's character is like, no, like you're not just like a monster, like you protected us. And it was like, no, I was studying you. And she's like, no, you really do love us.
Yeah,
And then it was like, I guess you're right, I'll leave.
She's like in the middle. She's already like killed people, and she's in the middle of trying to change into something so that she can kill our main character. And the main character delivers this fucking speech about like humanity and like how she's half human and stuff. And it's while she's doing it, it seems to be like affecting her, the like changeling, in a way that's like interrupting her abilities and stuff. And it's like,
yeah,
how
there's
is
like this
fucking
magic light that when she's like, oh no, friendship, and then like this
Yeah.
light like poofs off of her, like, oh,
It's just so
it felt goofy.
yeah. And then she like sprouts wings from her back and like flies off into the night. And I was just like, what the fuck are we? Hold on. You need to rewind the tapes because what are we doing?
Yeah.
If we could have defeated all the changelings with a fucking mere speech about friendship and humanity, what is the danger? What is our stakes here?
Yeah, and so they, Madeline, the shapeshifter, like flies off, and then we get a little like cap the movie off with a little monologue from Lucy. She's like rekindled her relationship with like her twin sister. Again, twins, the copies of each other. She's like fixed her relationship with them and reveals that like she's always being watched by Madeline, who like now takes the form of this like little girl that's creepy and follows her around all the time. And it's like, that's it. And that's the end of the movie. So there's just changelings out there. And yeah, so the ending, that is like where it kind of lost me. I think the strength of the movie really comes from the cinematography and like the like strong emphasis on the motif that Ishana like pumped into it. The story itself, again, we can't really blame her for it.
Yeah.
People have had some interesting insights about the theme of the story and stuff. I saw one interview where someone like had described it as sort of a commentary on like AI.
Okay.
And so like I have a quote, like Ishana, like in response to that said, like, I wouldn't say it's so literally about AI. All the stuff around AI was happening as I was working on the script, which is kind of weird for me that I was seeing this imagery that seems so interrelated to what I was writing about. What is palpable in the theme is the idea that we could all be replicated. Maybe we're not specific or unique. And I think that's sort of where what I fear in AI. Can my creativity be replicated or replaced? That fear is there in the movie. So that's like an interesting way
I would
to look
say
at
don't
it.
worry too much, Ishana. They still can't figure out how to draw hands. Or teeth. They're real bad at teeth too.
When asked about like what inspired her like in making this movie, she said, early on, I watched the Japanese film Onibaba. That was a big one in tonal reference for me. It's stunning and showed me how to play characters in nature, running through nature. I watched Antichrist as well. That was a big one. And so many others. She said Miyazaki was a big reference for me as well on this one. I tried not to take too many literal references, but instead I was washed over by the storytelling and seeing how different filmmakers are doing that. I can see it. There's a lot of whimsy going on, especially the way her very like, especially when you get into the bunker in the movie, it's like so cluttered. It's very Howl's Moving Castle where there's just like shit wall to wall everywhere. It's like all
that's a maximalist in it.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Especially in the burrows too. There's that shot where
the
main character
the
goes
junk
down
everywhere.
into the burrows and there's like these tunnels, like the walls and the floor of the tunnels are all like pockmarked by these like human objects. So there's like, soup cans, there's like a bicycle, there's a bunch of little toys. And it kind of reminded me of that one shot where like they're going into Hal's room and there's that like tunnel of objects.
Oh, exactly.
It looked a lot like that.
Definitely. That for sure. So I can see exactly like what she's talking about. Cause again, she said she wasn't trying to take like literal references, but just like let the oeuvre, let it wash over her.
I would love to see what Miyazaki's response would be to that because he's the type of guy
who's like,
he's
so mean.
He's so mean. And like, it's one of those things where he could either be like, I think it's a wonderful storytelling masterpiece and it's a cinematic beauty and everyone should see it. And I cried one single tear. And then I took that tear and I put it in a bottle and I sent it to the bottom of the ocean. Or Or he's the type of guy who'd be like, I think it's complete garbage. I think it should be put into a canister and shot into space and let to burn in the sun. I don't think anyone should watch it, and I feel bad that I even wasted my breath talking about it right now.
Yeah, he is.
He's
That's
like
pretty
very
much him.
much like one end or the other. He's a very dramatic man.
And that's pretty much it for the watchers. I mean, for me, I think it's worth a watch if you really like to, if you're willing to sit through like maybe a mid movie that has, like, if you're looking for the cinematography and for the filmmaking process, I think it's worth checking out. Overall, the story, meh, but performance-wise, I think everyone's pretty on point. Occasionally, there's some stilted dialogue, but it really doesn't take me out of it too much. I'd give it like a once watch.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be one I don't think I would recommend it. That's the part that like takes away from the movie to me.
Yeah.
Because like in the movie we're going to talk about next, in Trap, that's a movie that has its issues, but I think is fun and I would recommend to someone.
Yeah.
I just don't know who I would even recommend this to.
It's kind of hard.
It's bloodless. The payoff really isn't there. It's I wouldn't say the character design is particularly unique.
No.
So like it's hard for me to go like, look at this multifaceted little, thing we have here. It's kind of, it's weird. It's like a competent movie that's like very beautifully shot, but like as a complete package, it feels very mid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I think I might also fall back on that into your camp with you. It's I think if you're listening and it sounds like something you're like on the fence, you're like, maybe I do want to watch it. Maybe go for it. But I don't think I could say like you should watch it.
I just think there's other movies that have a very similar vibe that I would recommend prior. If I sat down and made a list, I could probably come up with 5 other movies I would sooner recommend.
There's a lot more if you're looking for like a fairy tale horror movie, I mean go watch like a Guillermo del Toro movie.
Yeah.
Like, go watch Pan's Labyrinth or something.
Exactly.
Go watch like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Go, there's a bunch of like fairy tale horror that I think ends up being stronger than this, but don't let that like count Ashana out in her future endeavors. Yeah. I think she's shown off like strong like fundamentals here. Yeah, that I'm excited to see what she does next. I just think this one ultimately didn't work super well. I'm
interested to see what happens if she does end up writing her own movie.
Yes, totally.
Because like I said, the whole family has a very creative mind. And in like an individual sense and in a group sense, they're all very creative together, which I think is cool. I like to see that like creative synergy.
Yeah, I have actually another interesting quote from her about when asked about like how she got into horror. Mm-hmm. And she said, "It kind of existed in my life for as long as I can remember. As a child, I always felt really connected to horror stories. That was always something I enjoyed reading. I often wonder, is it nature versus nurture? Is it something I was born with? Was it imposed upon me?" Mm-hmm. I don't really have an answer. For me, it's always given me a great sense of peace when I watch something that scares me. I think there's an element of not being as afraid of art than what's going on in your mind. That's pretty much how we feel about it. I appreciated a lot about her from that statement. I was like, that's exactly how I feel.
One of us.
Peace
One
through
of
fear.
us.
And with that, we can move on to Trap.
Okay.
But let's take a quick break. All right, we're back. And now we're going to shift tone. We just talked about The Watchers, which is a very somber, atmospheric movie. We're going high energy. And let's talk about Daddy Shyamalan himself's newest movie, Trap. Now, I kind of led the discussion for Watchers. We divvied the responsibility up this week. Mm-hmm. Eric's going to take Trap for us.
So, I think right off the bat, it's interesting and weird to compare the two movies because they do follow a lot of the same structure in settings. So you have your initial setting, which is no spoiler to the movie Trap. It's pretty much right out in the open that it's about a serial killer who has taken his daughter to a big stadium event concert. And once he gets there, he clicks into the information that like, oh, this whole concert has been set up as a trap to catch me. They know that the killer is going to be here. They don't know the killer is me, but they won't let anyone leave until they've found their killer. So he then has to kind of like panic through this entire situation and find a way out. So we start off with these situations of a character is now trapped in a very small place, and they have to figure out how to get out. And then later on in the movie, we shift to a very different open world setting.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to see between the two projects.
It is weird. There is, and it almost around like the same. No, I think we're in the forest for a lot longer in Watchers, but still, it is. I didn't really think about it that way, but yeah, we do start in one location and then totally shift and like flip flop the mood of the movie, like
for the third act,
completely for the third act. That's so funny,
and I think that's what is so fun about like this Shyamalan project is that it kind of forgoes the traditional like twist ending style of his movies, and what twists is like the perspective and setting in Trap, and I think that part's really fun.
I will say like my favorite part of the movie is just how it is watching the main character like wriggle out of a dicey situation just over and over again. It's the movie is so tense and fun because you're like, how is he gonna get out of this one? Like, how is he gonna get like? It's nonstop, just being like, oh shit. And even though you know he's the serial killer and he's the bad guy, you want him to get out. It's like,
I more so. It's not even so much as like. Because, you know, there's plenty of movies out there where, like, your bad guy is the protagonist and you're kind of rooting for the bad guy. It happens in, like, heist movies. It happens in other, like, horror movies pretty frequently.
Yeah.
But I think the amount of, oh, shit, how is he going to do this? How is he going to do that? Is different than other movies.
It's just nonstop.
And it as the show, as, like, the concert progresses, it just builds and builds and builds with more tension as like the net is slowly closing on him.
Yeah, it's almost it's fun. It's fun because the tension is almost like, and this isn't a derogatory way. It's almost stakeless because like if they catch the killer, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But you also kind of want him to get out. So you're like, how's he going to get out of here? If they catch him, that's fine. He probably shouldn't kill people.
Yeah.
But you're like, ooh, what's going to happen?
Like, can he do it? Can he pull it off?
It's kind of like you're excited either way it swings, you know, which is like such a fun, like interesting balance for like a horror movie to strike where you're like, what's going to go? What is happening? It's just such a wild ride.
But before we get into too much more of the plot, I wanted to talk about some of the like background stuff on the movie because there is some interesting stuff. As we all know, Shyamalan was kind of very plot forward with his like marketing of this movie and the pitch. He was pitching it as Silence of the Lambs, but set at a Taylor Swift concert, which is funny because I feel like that's the type of comparison that you would get from like a second or third party in most cases, but that's like right out of his mouth. Like that's how he was trying to sell the movie. He was really, really amped on this. He said this was like the fastest he's ever like written a movie.
Yeah.
So like he said he sat down and managed to bang it out in like 5.5 months. And that's like a personal record for him. He's very happy about that. And he did it working in conjunction with his daughter, Shalika.
Yeah.
Who is a musician.
Yeah, which I read was actually kind of like a little bit of a point of contention for a second because he was doing the Indian Asian father thing where she was like, I want to be a music star, and he was like, no. but then he kind of had to. I read the thing where he was like, oh, but then I like recalibrated, and I was like, what am I talking about? Like, I'm a director. Like, what are we doing here?
So, the premise of the movie came out initially from him and his daughter kind of collaborating. They were both really into Purple Rain, Prince's movie, which is a narrative that originated from an album that he then turned into a movie. So they were like, that's a really cool like way to start off making a movie. And I personally I'm always interested. It's not necessarily like 100% guaranteed that it's always good, but I am always interested when there is some type of media that like originated from a different medium.
Totally.
So like a concept album that's based on a movie. This is kind of like the opposite version. This is like a concept movie based on an album, which is super cool.
No, yeah, it's always cool when something like that happens. For like real big nerds out there, you have like Coheed and Cambria, which is like all of their albums are concept albums based off of a comic book that the guy writes. You know, it's always cool to see crossover between art mediums. It's really cool.
I always like that stuff.
I not to derail too much. I know we've been talking a lot lately, especially like on stream about like fever dream movies from my childhood, where I'm like, I don't even know if this is a real movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about Mask was a big one for me growing up. Another one. Moonwalker, the Michael Jackson album movie.
Yeah, understandable.
I don't even know what that movie's about. I just remember like insane imagery burned into my brain because my dad used to, at least he played it once and I saw parts of it and I was like, what am I witnessing? Like, I was too young. Weird shit was on screen.
You know, they made an SNES game about that.
Oh my god!
There's a Moonwalker SNES game.
I'm going to the vault and later, and I'm getting that game. And we're getting. You know what? I might go to Blockbuster and get Moonwalker and get super high and watch that because it's gotta be. It's gonna send me way back to when I was like 5 years old. But
so the other big inspiration outside of the music was, I don't know if you know about this. I've heard about it in a couple different places because I'm a pretty big true crime junkie, but it's based a lot on Operation Flagship, which was a huge police sting that they set up in 1985, where they had like 100 like disguised police officers who were working at this convention center under the premise that they had a lottery and convinced all of these people who had like outstanding warrants for their arrest that they had won this lottery and they were going to get free NFL tickets for Super Bowl 20, and they were going to get like an all expenses trip to the Super Bowl. So they convinced all of these people that they were winning shit. They rounded them all up and then they arrested 101 people.
Oh my god.
Which is like, how is that fucking
even
legal?
I was going to say, is that even legal?
It's just so funny to
That
me
seems
when
like a
the cops are
gray
like,
area.
what if we just lie to everyone and arrest them anyway? It's like
That has to be entrapment.
it's such a Wild West ass solution to like catching criminals. They're like, what if we tell them we're gonna send them to the Super Bowl? And then all of these idiots. It's great because you can look up. They filmed the whole thing. So, like, you can see all of this footage of these people who are standing in line, like, excitedly talking to each other. They're all in their fucking, like
wait a minute,
football gear.
Wait a minute, you're supposed to be in jail right now? I'm supposed to be in jail. Wait, you guys are supposed to be... I'm supposed to be in jail right now.
No, none of them caught on at all. They were all just so excited to see football. Like, it's just so crazy.
It sounds like the plot to a... like Japanese show about America.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's like kind of how like the Phoenix Wright games kind of like try to pretend to like what American law is like.
Yeah.
You know? Where you're like, well, that's not really it, but you know, you have fun, Japan.
Yeah. But outside of that, back to the music. Salika plays, the pop star Lady Raven.
Yes.
Who, that's the concert they're attending.
Right.
And as her dad was writing the script, they kind of worked together to compose like a full-length 14-song album for the movie.
Yeah, you can actually. There's like an entire album by her, right? That you can.
I listened to it right before this episode. Actually,
how was it?
It was all right. It was all right.
I mean, because
there are some songs...
I enjoyed some of the music, but there was movie going on, right? So I couldn't really focus too much on it.
The emphasis on the concert itself was like by design, right? Like they wanted to try and make a soundtrack like from the beginning that like carried the plot and stuff. And it's like a weird way to make music because like the album is supposed to be from this pop star. So it's supposed to be based on like her experience in her life. But the lyrics are supposed to be like nods as to what is occurring throughout the plot.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I would say that it's a bold endeavor.
Yes.
And I'll have to go and listen to the album like all the way through and like check it out. As far as in the movie, I think it works.
I think it definitely works. As a standalone album, I think there are some pretty generic songs. But there's a couple songs on there that are really good. There's a cameo.
Bops?
There's a cameo appearance in the movie from Kid Cudi, and
oh my god, he's so good.
And he's on one of these like tracks, and I think it's honestly the strongest like song on the album.
Yeah, honestly,
it's pretty good.
If we could just get like a sexy Kid Cudi appearance every couple years in a horror movie,
he's looking like straight up fucking Curtis Tigerian. He's got this insane pin straight, like ass length
silver hair.
Oh my! He's serving all over this fucking movie.
It's so good. Funny.
So he, like we said before, M. Night's like super anal about like pre-production. He's like very, very specific. So they had him and a storyboard artist sat down and did like the entire movie shot for shot so that he knew exactly how he could position his actors. They essentially had to put on a full-length concert to film the movie, which is really cool, but it requires a lot of really strategic movie making because you have a stadium that is absolutely packed with a live audience. That's a fuckload of extras on top of all of these other scenes that take place around the concert where it's just a huge concert venue full of extras.
Yeah. You know what? It was nice, though, it was really nice and refreshing seeing a movie, a modern movie that was just jam-packed with actual people and not like a bunch of like CGI mannequins, Like just seeing a movie that just feels like lived in,
yeah. Like there's like real shit happening.
Yeah, it felt, I don't know, it felt like old to me in a good, not like old the movie, but an old movie.
Well, he set out specifically to make this movie in a way that reflected like movie making from like the 90s.
Yeah,
like that's like a really big touchstone for him.
It feels like that, and it feels good. It feels like home.
They did a lot of shots where they had to schedule out like, okay, if we have all the extras on set for today, we're going to shoot all of these shots and then all of these other low angle shots where you essentially only see the main character. We can just send those motherfuckers to lunch. We don't need them on the clock right now. Get them out of here. So they were really like having that storyboard as like a Bible essentially for them to shoot from was like hugely strategically advantageous for them.
Sure. With a movie like this, I could totally see how his method of filmmaking works for him.
Yeah.
Whereas Viewpoint for watchers worked because there was such a small cast. You were in the woods with like 4 people. Yeah. It's like, so it also depends on the subject matter you're dealing with, so he was working to his strengths, with this.
Yeah. Weird thing I found right before we started recording, though. So principal photography on the movie was scheduled to shoot in Cincinnati, Ohio, at a big stadium there in August of 2023 because they were set up to receive $9 million in tax credits from shooting in Ohio. I've never heard of an Ohio tax shelter film. It's the fucking... And the amount of money? $9 million? What are we doing with our... That's what they do with our tax money? Fix the fucking streets.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe it was like a... remember back when people were trying to campaign to get Columbus renamed as Flavortown, because that's where Guy Fieri's from.
But unfortunately, as we all are aware, we had a big SAG-AFTRA strike. And
that did affect this, huh?
It did affect it because they weren't allowed to shoot in America. They had to like change gears, and they moved to Ontario, our favorite.
Oh yes, Ontario,
our favorite safe place to film movies when you're not allowed to do it in America.
I mean, you might as well just do it there anyway, man.
Yeah, and
everyone likes Ontario.
They picked up filming in October. This was all filmed at their fictional version of the arena is the Tanaka Arena, which they kind of like imposed over the real life arena in Philly where this is set, the Wells Fargo Center, which I was looking at this arena. I'm like, I feel like I've been here before. I'm pretty sure I know where this is. Nope. Turns out the Tanaka Arena in Ontario looks exactly like the Wells Fargo Center in Philly.
Okay, so that's all it is. You were so convinced. You were like, I've been there.
I went there. I went to see Street League, which is like a big skateboard like exhibition tour.
You were so
there.
sure, dude.
And I was looking at like the shots where it's not in the stadium, where it's like on the like outskirts of the stadium where they're going to like vendors and like concessions and stuff. I'm like, I've fucking been here. I know this place. But yeah, they shot it in Canada. It's a huge like 20,000 seat arena where they had all of the extras were provided the music like a couple weeks in advance. So that they could learn and sing along and like legitimately have a good time at the concert. So what they would do is they would film all of the audience reactions, and then they would film all like in order the audience reaction to stuff, the stuff on stage, and then they would film all of the like small encounters with our main characters separately. And they had to like make it sound like there's this, you know, concert going on. So they superimposed the crowd reaction audio over top of the main characters in a silent stadium where they're screaming at each other.
That's
like
dude, that set was
so
wild.
That way it would sound like they're actually at the concert.
Honestly, fantastic job, because I never once was like, they're not really at a concert. It felt the whole movie felt so like just grounded, and like I felt like I was there. They did a really good job, especially if that's the weird way that they did it.
The other weird thing I found was that in a couple interviews, Josh Hartnett, who plays Cooper, the main character, the butcher, he had this weird experience where all of these extras were coming up to him, and they were like just trying to be like very reassuring, because they didn't know, the extras didn't know it was a movie about a serial killer. They just knew that it was a movie that was set at a concert event.
Right.
So they see him like in all these scenes where he's like freaking out and he's like anxious and he's nervous and he's doing all this weird stuff. And then they would come up to him after takes and be like, "Hey man, you're doing really good. Like, you know, you're going to be really good in this movie." Like,
and he's
like,
"I'm fine.
exactly. He's
I'm
like
the actor."
He's like, "I know, like I'm the star of the movie. Like I'm like a humble actor, but like, yeah, I think I'm going to be okay. I'm doing just fine."
That's like reminds me of like that show, that Jury Duty show with Jason Marsden, where the one guy's like, "Yeah, that movie sucks." And it was like Sonic, and he was like.
But yeah, I think Josh Hartnett does a really amazing job on screen. I think he is just the way that they frame him is perfect. He looks so much larger than life. Like,
yes,
because
they're always shooting him from low angles.
And he's always surrounded by, like, you know, little
girls.
teeny boppers and stuff. So he looks like this huge, imposing presence on screen, and you automatically buy into the idea that, like, oh, this guy is like a big time killer. This guy's like a big, scary fucking killer.
Yeah,
and it really adds to the, like, immediate tension of the film. I think it's, like, so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should go over the cast a little bit, because the cast is, I think, pretty strong. So we do have Josh Hartnett as the main character, Cooper, the butcher.
Mm-hmm.
I love Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett is actually the star. He's the main character in one of my, which I don't think we ever watched together. One of my favorite horror movies that I don't watch nearly enough is 30 Days of Night. I love 30 Days.
30 Days of Night's a heater.
I think that is, like, the perfect vampire story and like perfect setting. Like, it's, that movie's so good.
Yeah.
And Josh Hartnett kills it in that movie.
He was in H2O. He was in Penny Dreadful.
He's in fucking so much stuff.
He's got a stacked IMDb list. For a guy who is not necessarily at, like, A-level actor as far as, like, publicity, he's in a ton of, like, big time shit.
Definitely. He's I love whenever he pops up. Accompanying him, co-star role, Ariel Donahue, who plays Riley, his daughter. She honestly does a fantastic job at being a convincing teenage girl obsessed with a pop star.
Yeah.
She's like she's so believable in the movie that, like, sometimes I'm like, she's such a real character. I'm like, there's no way she doesn't know that this guy is a serial killer. Like, he's acting crazy in this movie. And she does point it out, but I was like, she has to know some, like, extra weird stuff.
No, so, like, apparently their idea is that, like, this is really the first time where his two lives are, like, overlapping, his serial killer life and his home life. Because, like most of these types of serial killers, he keeps everything very separate, very
which we learn about later.
Yeah,
the psychology behind it, which I think is a fun little point in the movie. But no, Ariel Donahue, really good. She's a relatively new actress. She is in, there's a Peacock series called The Wolf in Me or something like that. It's like a horror comedy about werewolves. It's got who's that? The dweeby guy that, like, everyone's making fun of. He played LeFou in the live action Beauty and the Beast movie.
Rounding out some of this cast is crazy. We have Kid Cudi. We have
Allison Pill, who, I mean, I love whenever she pops up. You guys will know her from, she was in the Trump season of American Horror Story, and she was great in that one. She was
in the first season of Them,
which, dude, is she crazy in that
She's
season.
Fucking firing on all cylinders in that show.
Sorry, it was called
She's
Wolf.
So good.
Wolf Like Me is the name of the show, and it's fucking Josh Gad is the lead. Of that.
Okay,
But she plays a daughter in that show, and then she moved on to this first feature film, so that's pretty rad. I don't know if anything else that she's from, but Haley Mills is this. She plays this, like, old, like, FBI psychologist in the movie. She doesn't really have that many lines, but her presence in the movie is oppressive and hilarious.
She's like a side character from
like
Criminal
ghost.
Minds.
Yeah, she's like a ghost haunting the film.
Yeah.
She plays this FBI profiler who is, like, the reason that this trap has been set up. She's like, I've profiled the butcher. I know every detail of his life. I just don't know what he looks like, but he's here. And seriously, it is, like, the most haunting presence in like, I was like, oh my God, this lady's gonna get him. You know, she's scary, and she's just this tiny little, like, feeble thing.
Yeah, she's like essentially a fucking Q-tip in a scarf and an overcoat that's, like, standing around glaring the whole time.
Dude, it's like anytime she shows up on screen, it was cracking me up, and I loved it. She's such a fun, like, addition to the movie.
I tell you what, we've been getting a lot of really fun FBI agents this year. We got Lee Harker, we got this lady.
The FBI's eaten.
Yeah, FBI do be eaten.
The FBI's eaten.
But I will say the amount of resources required to make this plan happen would be astronomical. Yeah, there's absolutely no way the FBI would ever do this in real life for one man.
Yeah, they did it for, like, hundreds of dudes, right?
Yeah, right.
This is for one guy, and there has to be hundreds of police officers, dozens of SWAT team members, dozens of FBI agents. The place is swarming with police. Like, it's honestly surprising that like we didn't see like 100 other dudes sweating their ass off. Like, oh shit, I know I didn't pay my taxes yet, but
Yeah,
Jesus.
Right? What I do like, though, is that we get lots of like scenes, especially early on, as he's like kind of figuring out like, oh wait, something's going on here. They keep taking these white dudes out of the crowd, like all over the stadium, and he keeps seeing these interactions where like the cops just like come out of like a stairwell, and they're like, that guy right there. They shine a flashlight, they pull him out of the crowd, and then he's like, oh, what was that about? He sees it like 3 or 4 more times, and then there's a couple guys who are just like you said, they're freaking out because they're like, oh shit, I thought this whole sting operation was for me. I'm just like a random criminal guy. Like, I'm not a murderer or anything.
Yeah. So I mean, the movie basically unfolds like that. So it's all about Cooper and Riley. They get to this concert, and it takes a little bit. You get a lot of like slow, methodical setup where you see all these like police officers, these SWAT teams, these vans, they're all over the place. But Cooper doesn't know it right away. It's like it takes him a while, but the whole movie he's clocking stuff.
Yes, he is categorized. He's like, that's weird, that's weird,
yeah,
that's weird.
It's a really deftly applied like to the film like story thread of like it's you can see it on the actor's face. Like Hartnett does like such a good job of performing without. There's a lot of the movie is him not saying anything. It's all in his eyes, all in his face. He does such a good job, and it's just him clocking little things throughout the movie until eventually he's like, all right. Eventually he encounters a so Jonathan Langdon plays this character Jamie, who's just like a merch vendor who apparently all of the people who work at this seems like an oversight. Yeah, from the like, I feel like FBI, I feel like it. So the character, the Jamie character, is a worker at the venue. Apparently, everybody at the venue has been briefed by the FBI and the police about what the plan is. Like everybody who works at this place now knows that a serial killer will be here. The FBI's hunting him. They all have like code words that they've been given.
Yeah, there's a special code word
and a card.
Yeah, so that the cops can validate like, okay, you are an employee. You're not the guy we're looking for.
Right, which I feel like if you wanted to catch this guy,
no,
it's not the
you can't tell anyone that.
Like what? It's not the FBI's responsibility to let the workers at this convention center know anything. Like, yeah. They don't need to have this information. They just come in, do their jobs. Like, if I went to work and there was just a bunch of police officers, I'd be like, well, that's weird. I guess I'll do my job. Like, I don't need that information.
No, honestly, if the police came to me at my job and was like, hey, we're setting up a sting operation, I'd be like, cool, I'm taking the day off. I'm not going to be here for this.
Yeah, it was honestly, I think that's what it's a minor like plot hole, but it's not really that big a deal. But it is funny to me that so like everybody knows what's going on who works there. So Cooper, corners Jamie, and he's like, hey, Cooper's like, what's going on? He's like, all right, don't tell anybody, but this whole thing's a trap.
Yeah,
yeah. And then Cooper's like, oh fuck, and then that's where the movie like starts to, because now that he has confirmation, he starts really sweating, and he starts doing weird things because like at first he's very calm, cool, collected. There's like a cool scene where he like pretends to be a employee, right? Like he takes like a key card, he goes into the break room that's filled with SWAT team members, and he's like all confident and cocky. He's like, no one knows it's me. I'll walk around. Yeah. He's pretending like he's like, oh, just me gonna grab a cup of coffee, and then he like reaches under and he's like, oh yeah, the sugar's right here. You want some donuts? I brought them. He's like, he's so like suave and like he knows like exactly how to play.
He's knocking
off.
These charisma checks out of the park.
It's crazy, and it's so cool to see. But then once he like really knows that like it's the hunt is on like, and he knows that he's getting closer to being caught because they're like. Over the course of the movie, so they're in like the center of the arena, right, with him and his daughter on the floor, and he sees like the police checks like picking people off in like the rafters, right, and they get closer and that's like another cool like sort of like countdown that the movie has is like every time he's like looking around back when he's back in the concert with his daughter, he like looks around and the people are getting like the men, because there's like a specific like demographic of men that they've like identified as like, so anybody that looks like these types of people, grab them, and so they get the seats that they're picking from get closer and closer and closer, and eventually you get to the point where like a guest musician shows up and he like rises out from like this like mechanized like platform like right near them.
And I know Matt doesn't know because culturally he lives under a rock, and then I feed him small bits occasionally. That's Russ. He's like a majorly like famous and popular like hip hop and pop star.
Never seen him. He looks like a guy.
Yeah.
Looks unremarkable to me.
Girls on Twitter love Russ.
Well, girls in the movie loved Russ.
True. I mean, he's kind of hot. I get it. I don't
know. You know what? He looks like he's aping off you, man. He looks like an Eric Rossi ripoff.
He does kind of look like, now that he has long hair, we do look like the same profile.
But there's like a really funny point where Cooper, Josh Hartnett's character, is like, he's he's trying to find any escape route, right? So he's calculating all the different like plot, but like the
places to get out, all the points, and there's just like this ramp that leads down to like the understage, and he's just like, hey Riley, look where he came from. Wouldn't it be cool if we just went down there? And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Dad? Like, no, Dad, I'm having an amazing time at this concert.
She's like, we're not allowed down there. What are you talking about? He's like, oh yeah, that is pretty crazy. Just silly old Dad. It's like, it's really funny watching the like degradation of his like confidence.
Yeah, it's like his mask slips more and more and more, and it's like the first time his daughter is really like, wait, why is he acting so fucking weird? But I will say that is such a fucking dad move to just see this like random door or random like ramp and just be like, oh yeah, it's a shortcut. Come on, we're going this way. And it like he has zero idea where it goes.
It's just, I don't know, the whole movie, man, I was just so extremely impressed with Hartnett's portrayal of this character, both like his portrayal and Shyamalan's writing of the character. Like it's so like so well crafted and like from concept to execution. Like it's so strong, and it pulls you so like powerfully through the movie because you really just want to see what's going to happen, what he's going to do next, what's going to happen next. Is he going to get out? It's just like, I was like, honestly, like astonished. I was like, this is like, this movie is going off way harder than it has any right to right now.
It's just fun. That's the thing that I find most about it. I wouldn't say it's like a 10 out of 10 movie, but it's just so much fun. It's just like a really like entertaining experience to watch. Like there are people online who have like pretty big and like I think misplaced like brutal criticisms of this film, and like it for really nothing that like changes how entertaining the movie is. Like yeah, there's a couple like performances and like line deliveries that fall kind of flat, but I wouldn't say they're from any of like the leading actors. You know what I mean? Like you have the couple scenes with M. Night's daughter, who plays Lady Raven, where she, doesn't give the most well-rounded performance, but
she's not an actress.
She's not
either,
an actress, and she spent the production of this movie coming up with the fucking soundtrack.
She wrote a fucking 14-song album
and prepared for a pretend tour.
Yeah.
Like she was kind of doing other things.
Yeah, no, I do think so. So the movie kind of is split into two parts. The and not evenly. The majority of the movie is set in the concert hall. And
I'd say the first 2/3.
Yeah, and I'd say that is the like strongest part of the movie. Eventually,
similar to The Watchers, that's their coup.
Yes, yeah. Eventually, Cooper devises a way. He manages to finagle it so that Riley gets like a one-on-one like interaction with Lady Raven, and then manages to like con his way to get closer and closer to her. Like, because eventually he finds out that like he gets to like go backstage where there isn't as many police, right?
Yeah.
He kind of figures like, oh, I'll get
I'll get backstage and then I'll just dip out the back.
We can escape that way.
I'll go out the back door.
But eventually it does come down to a point where it's like, there's no, even for the people who are in on it, there's no way to get out if you're not interviewed by like the police. So he's like,
yeah.
So eventually he comes down to the point where he's like, I'm just going to have to ask Lady Raven, hey, can I talk to you one-on-one about my daughter? And then he just straight up reveals, he's like, hey, you almost got me. I'm the butcher. Here's a guy in my basement. I'll kill him right now if you don't take me directly to your limo with my daughter and drive us home.
Yeah.
You know, or just drive us out of here. And then she's like, oh shit. And she decides, like, you know, the Lady Raven character is like, well, you can see that she's like, well, I can't be responsible for killing this guy, even though it's like, well, he will kill a lot more people if you get him out of here. So maybe one guy, sorry, you know, but either way, she's like, well, I can't, you know, I'm going to get him out of here.
What I like about her is that she initially, like her character, like initially it's like, oh fuck, okay, I got to play along with this guy or this other dude is going to get killed. And then very quickly she realizes how much power she has, like, in the dynamic. So she's like, okay, let me spin this. Not only are we going to drive you out of here,
we'll drive you home.
Yeah. We'll take you right to your house.
Because she realizes he doesn't want to reveal, like, he cares about his daughter and what his daughter thinks of him, right? So she's like, well, he's not gonna
blow the cover in front of his daughter. So all I gotta do is
get to their house.
Yeah, if I can keep this daughter, like, close to me and entertain this daughter, I can try and figure out a way out of the situation and a way to save this guy in this dude's basement. And it was at this point where they leave the theater and she devises the plan in the limo, like, oh, hey, hold on. We're going to go to my friend's house, to her driver. And she's like, let's go to this address. That was the point for me where it was like cue the sitting forward in my chair meme. Cause I was like, okay, hold on. What the fuck's going on?
Where are we going?
When the like the venue change and like the setting change of like, okay, we're leaving the like concert. I was like, okay, now you got me. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, where is this going? And we take like a big long trip. We get back to like the butcher's house, to Cooper's house. And it's this little psychological back and forth between the two of them. Is like, who's gonna like break first, because you know, Cooper is caught in this really awkward space because it's like she has all of the power to like reveal everything, but she knows like if she reveals it, he's probably gonna just kill her, but like he doesn't want her to reveal anything. It's this funny thing, and you get these like really funny scenes where like he's like smiling, you know, in his house, being like, isn't it great that Lady Raven's here? The his wife and son are there. They all, it's this big happy family, and it's Lady Raven's like, oh, you know, it's so nice to have you here. They're eating like deviled eggs, which is such like a gross thing to just have ready all the time for guests. Like, what a weird.
Mom just whipped that up real quick. Found out Lady Raven was going to show up and said, "Oh my god, get deviled eggs going.
I'll make the stinkiest food that only some people like." It's so funny. And for me, the only real problem, I mean, there's a couple things, but the biggest problem is, again, I don't really blame her because Salika is not a straight up actress, you know, like classically trained or anything. Her performance outside of the concert, in the concert, like singing
nails
stuff,
it.
She's great.
Even like the backstage stuff, it's a very like kind of flat interaction where it's like, yeah, this is my fan. I'm being nice to my fan. This is my show. This is what I got to do.
The problem is that she carries that through the whole time, and her performance when she's in these really dire straits and she's in this like really like tense situation it still is very flat, and so she just doesn't really sell it enough, and I think that is a problem, but not like a glaring problem.
No,
it's just like a little like meh, you know. I don't feel as like, I don't know, emotional about her performance as I might have if it was somebody else who's a little more confident on screen, but like it's really not that big a deal. It's like for me, minor gripe. Eventually, though, she does manage to, like, in a very funny, like, series of events, steal Cooper's phone and sprint for the bathroom. Again, meanwhile, like, Cooper can't directly, like hunt her, like, grab her and, like, you know, take the phone. He has to kind of pretend, because, again, this is his daughter's, like, idol, right? He has to, but then she gets into the bathroom with his phone, and starts like, she logs into like her Instagram and goes live and is like, hey, I need you guys to help me find, there's a guy in a basement somewhere. If anybody knows about this, like these landmarks that he's near, you have to go find him. And meanwhile, like Cooper's like banging on the door, and his family, because at this point you're in the bathroom, you can only hear what's going on. And his family's like, what are you doing? Lady Raven's here. Why are you going crazy, Dad? It's just so funny. And then eventually she's like, your dad's the butcher. And then everything goes silent.
Silent, dead
And at
silent.
first I was very worried.
Yeah, me too. I was like, we just family annihilated.
Yeah, because I was like, honestly, that is probably more likely what would happen in this situation if it was like realer.
Yeah.
We do the family does end up all right in the end, which is kind of nice. But yeah, it eventually does all break down, and we get this like chase scene where like Lady Raven leaves in her limo, but then the limo gets like she's stuck
in the bathroom, and then she's like trying to get the police to show up to save that guy, and she's already like contacted her driver to like call the police. So like the SWAT teams are all pulling up, and he makes an escape out of
they found out he has like a secret tunnel that goes underneath the neighborhood, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So what a twist, he got out again.
The cops escort her to her limo. She pulls out of there in the limo.
Turns out he disguised as the limo driver.
Yeah. He somehow slipped outside, killed the limo driver, changed into a full SWAT outfit, and is now like taking her away.
Yeah, he's got her handcuffed to the limo, and then like she like breaks out of the handcuffs, like opens the window while people are like, hey, that's Lady Raven. This big crowd swarms the limo, and then he like, there's a crazy sequence where there's like a million people surrounding this limo, and she's like, the butcher's in here, he's got me. And then everyone's like, what? And then the police show up. But somehow he managed to like undress from the SWAT outfit, create a little SWAT dummy in the seat he was in, slip out of the limo and away, and nobody noticed.
He changes out of the SWAT gear into like tour merch that they had in the limo. So he puts on all this fucking Lady Raven like gear, and somehow like Looney Tunes style like gets out of the car and blends into the crowd. So they like swarm this car, and they're like, oh fuck, he's not in here. Meanwhile, he's taken off.
Yeah. Although eventually it all comes back to, he goes back home. He has an encounter with his wife, who he finds out his wife is the reason why the FBI was even
onto his trail,
keyed onto him anyway, because she left like a ticket to the concert in a safe house of his that she found, where she was like, I don't know if you're a serial killer, but you might be. So on the off chance you are, I'm going to leave this here as like a clue. And I was like, you bitch. You fucking Allison Pill. You can't be just a nice lady in a movie, huh? You got to be ruining somebody's day. And then, you know, he tries to like kill the wife now, because he's like mad. He's like, because he has this realization where he's like, I didn't think I would care, but I'm really mad that I don't get to see like my daughter and son grow up.
We do get this really fun, to me, interaction where it's like you really zoom in on like how OCD this guy is, because she's like, hey, this cake was for our daughter's, like, or this pie was for our daughter's birthday. Like, why don't we have a piece of this before you kill me? Like, let's just sit down. We'll talk for a couple minutes. And he's like, you know, I'm going to eat this in 5 bites, right? And she's like, yeah, I know. And it turns out by the 5th bite, he realizes she's drugged the pie. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just such a lovely detail for the wife to know, like, okay, he's going to fucking house this confection if I give it to him. So let me just sprinkle a bunch of his drugs on here that I found in one of his go bags. Yeah. And we'll fucking drug him at the house.
It is funny seeing, once you like think about it more, about the like, because the FBI the old lady that's haunting the movie, mm-hmm. she like, well, actually there's 2 haunting old ladies in the movie.
True.
But the FBI lady, she points out eventually that she's like, she gives the profile like out loud to the viewers, and like the OCD-ness of it all like is one of the main things. And then you start to realize the whole movie he's been doing like funny OCD stuff, but you never really like thought about it until the more nervous he gets, the more like it comes out, and he starts doing things like there's like a scene like after he takes like what's her name out of the bathroom, he like straightens like the towel, you know, even though like the door's busted in and like there's all this chaos going on, his family's locked in a room upstairs. He's like, let me just make sure this towel is exactly correct.
Make sure it's in order. Everything needs to be in order.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love that little detail. Like, it plays into his character, and it so powerfully builds tension through that conversation because you see him take every single bite, and you're counting down.
You are.
So it's like 2 bites, 3 bites, and
Yeah,
know
'cause
when
he
he's done,
called
he's
it.
gonna kill her.
Yeah, he called when it was going to happen. You know, it's a very good little writing device. It was tense. It was really good. Eventually, Cooper gets taken down though by like the SWAT team breaks in. This old lady comes in. And she's like, "Haha, I finally got you." Also, like the whole movie is being haunted by a different old lady who we find
his
out
mom.
is his mom, who
Yeah.
he was like disappointed by. That was another thing.
Big mommy problems.
The psychological profile was given to Lady Raven, and there's a point where she like distracts him by like scolding him like a mother would. And it's like, it would be a cool scene if it was performed better.
Yeah.
But like, it was such a stilted dialogue, like coming from like Salika, that I was like,
Yeah, if you had like a 35-year-old in that
Yes.
role, I'd be
She's
like,
too much
she
too
was
young.
way too young to try and do like
A
a
mommy thing.
mommy psychology pull on him. And even he is like,
He's
I don't
like,
even
I know
know
what you're
why
doing.
you're trying this. This is not gonna
He's
work.
like, you can see where he's like, this would work if you weren't like the same age as my daughter.
yeah, if you weren't like 21 years old, like it's probably more effective, but like no.
So eventually Cooper gets caught, but at the end of the movie, he as he's getting dragged off, his daughter's bike is like tipped over in the front yard, and he's like, "Hold on, before I go," and he like straightens it and like sets it up because you're like, "Oh, because he's OCD, he wants it to be nice," but he got the little
He got a spoke out of the tire.
yeah, spoke out of the tire. He hit it, and he managed to unlock himself. And the movie ends with this maniacal smile and laugh where he's like, "Ha ha, I'm getting out, baby." Trap 2.
I'll fucking take it. You know what? M. Night's not usually the type to do like sequels, and I think even
Unless he does 3 of them.
unless he does 3 of them. But I would love to see this character again in another one of his projects, in a sequel, in a crossover situation like, you know, Glass or Unstoppable, or Unbreakable, not Unstoppable.
Yeah, it was Unbreakable, Glass, and what was the one with the split?
Split, yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely watch Josh Hartnett play this character again. Any of the characters coming back, I think I would enjoy. I would like to encounter the Butcher again. It was just so fun. I mean, we wouldn't obviously get it in the same scenario, which is most of the fun of the movie. But I think Josh Hartnett's performance was so compelling, and I would watch him in some other, setting.
Yeah. Some sort of other gotcha
Another
territory.
family, if he
Yeah.
starts another family or something. But honestly, like you said, I mean, the movie is it's just fun, man.
It's fun. It's just fun. And movies are allowed to be fun.
Yeah, they can
There's
be
like this
dumb
weird-
and full of plot holes.
I was watching, and I know I shouldn't have, because it's always like, it always just pisses me off. But I was looking at a couple different like YouTube reviewers like talk about this movie, and it just like solidifies to me the idea that we shouldn't let anyone who does like YouTube movie reviews, they just shouldn't be allowed to consume art. Because it's just like, they're so angry that the movie is like fun.
yeah,
That's it. Like, they wanted like this super hardcore, serious Christopher Nolan style movie, and I'm like, movies are allowed to be fucking fun, dude. Like, every movie, and that's what's so appealing about the horror genre. You can have such a diverse like vibe in your horror movie or in your like subgenre. Like, it doesn't all have to be Silence of the Lambs. It doesn't all have to be Longlegs. It can be fun. We can have fun with these ideas. We don't have to make them these grim, and it is, like dark comedy at some points of the movie, but like
definitely.
but it doesn't always have to be this like huge, amazing, like cinematic masterpiece. It can just be fun to watch. It's entertainment, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Shyamalan knows that. I mean, the movie is like literally there's a like fun exclamation point put right at the end. There's like a there's like a mid credits stinger where the one character the
t-shirt sales guy.
clerk guy. He's like he's watching the news at home and he's just like looking at the screen and it's like, authorities have identified the identity of the butcher and it's this man Cooper, blah blah blah, and he's like, there's Cooper. Oh man, I'm not talking to anybody at work again. Yeah, and it's just like it's so funny, and it's like because honestly it's like the ending for Long Legs, where at the end of Long Legs, they were like, the movie was like all serious, but we all had fun, right? And they were like, let's have Nicolas Cage give a wink, like a literal wink, to be like, it's a movie,
a literal smooch and a wink. Yeah,
like it is okay. It's okay to have fun. Like we can have different, like visions in our movies, even if they're horror movies and they're about serial killers. And not every movie has to be the same vibe. We can have different takes, different styles, and sometimes they can be serious and sometimes they can be really scary and really creepy. And sometimes they can just be funny and fun. And
it just cracks me up that there's so many voices out there who are like just completely opposed to enjoying something. It's just so like reductive and like stupid.
You know what? That is, I don't know how to fix that though, because that's like an entrenched problem just with being online terminally. Like you get more engagement if your opinion's shitty about something.
Yeah. If you're shitting on something, people want to look at it.
Yeah. It like nobody gets clicks for being like, I liked this. It's all about if I can like tear something down, people engage with me, and that's like a problem that I can't even fathom how to fix. But you know what? That's not why we're here. We're here not to solve the problem, but to be a salve for it.
Yes.
We're here to say, like, even if we don't like something, we didn't love The Watchers, but we can see the good in it. And we can see how it contributed to the art form overall, to the genre. And then we can also talk about another movie that is also not a masterpiece, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
We that's what we're here for. We're here to like explore horror with positivity, with a positive viewpoint, go in wanting to enjoy it. And if we don't, we can calmly and rationally discuss why we didn't like it and have a little fun. And then it doesn't have to be this fucking like shit fest,
Yeah.
And that's what this week was not. It was not a Shyamalan shit fest. It was a celebration of the Shyamalan family.
Yeah.
And actually, with that, I have one more quote from Ishana. I thought would be a good one to end on, because this was a coming together of the family's summer, right? Mm-hmm. So some people might be thinking, what about nepotism? And this was in response to essentially the question of, but what about nepotism, Ishana? This is a excerpt from an article I read. So it says, in an era where discourse over nepotism in Hollywood runs hot, the Shyamalans wear their name proudly. Their mom, Bhavna Shyamalan, is the owner of a fitness studio and the vice president of the M. Night Shyamalan Foundation. Fans noticed that there was a poster for The Watchers in the Trap trailer. The sisters did acknowledge the advantages that come with their lineage, but they have tried to make up for that with discipline. It's really, this is a quote, it's really about meeting that privilege and honoring that with as hard a work ethic as we can, by being as kind people as we can and holding ourselves to the highest standard possible.
Love that.
And that's, what else could you want from a film dynasty like the Shyamalans, right? They just seem like good, wholesome people who just love creating art.
Yeah,
and, that's what we need more of.
Yeah.
And we need less fucking like neckbeard YouTubers tearing people down. You can have a neckbeard, just be nice about it.
Just be nice. Just be nice. Don't make yourself a target.
And with that, I think that's it for our Shyamalan face-off. More of a Shyamalan coming together. But that's it for that. Do we have any?
Yes, we got some stuff to plug.
Any plugs?
I am connected to a Kickstarter right now that is ongoing. It is to kickstart a comic book that a friend of mine has written. He had someone else illustrate it, but I'm connected to the project because if it gets funded, I will be coloring the full-length comic.
And you did a cover for it.
And I did. I did do a variant cover, which is accessible through the Kickstarter.
And it looks great.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Right now,
Link in the
as
bio
of-
for the Kickstarter. It'll be there.
It'll be there. Right now, we are looking at like just shy of $200 will get this project funded, and there's 23 days left to go on it. This is money that will go directly to me, the guy that is speaking now. It's to support me so that I can get paid to make the comic, and it would just be amazing to see it happen. It'll be a fun project to work on, and it'll put food in my mouth.
Yeah. And
So,
you want that.
we want that.
You want the skeleton to eat, everybody.
Yeah,
He's all
yeah.
bones right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out the link to that in the description. It'll be there.
If you're having trouble finding it, just search Wasteland, a dark sci-fi murder mystery comic. That'll get you right to the page on Kickstarter, and you can check it out there.
And if that description doesn't make you want to check it out, then unsubscribe. No, don't.
No, please don't.
No, don't.
In fact, tell your friends, if you got horror lovers out there on your end, just
In fact, make a bunch of extra email accounts and just log into a different one on each device. Subscribe. We really need to pump the numbers. I don't care how you do it. Buy bots. Just get us up there.
outside of that, we're doing the rest of the Hot Wet Summer on the Twitch stream.
Yep.
That's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday nights.
Yep, we got a couple more hot wet games coming at you with that, and we got one or two more hot wet episodes, and then that'll be it for the summer. And then it's fall, and then it's time for Halloween, and we can get back to the really spooky stuff.
Yeah, just on the horizon for next week, we're going to be covering
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo. How are we pronouncing it? Do we have
It's
pronunciation?
It's cuckoo because
All right.
it's a U. If it was cuckoo, it would be o.
Oh, I guess you're right.
It's cuckoo.
Vowels.
We'll find out, but we'll actually find out for real when we see the movie. I hope
Yeah, that'll
they'll
be coming
probably
at
say
you.
it a couple times, and then we'll know.
Hopefully. Please, for the love of God.
Hey, Longlegs said Longlegs in the movie, so we can hope Cuckoo says Cuckoo. Right? But yeah, that's it. So, check out our Twitch stream, check out the Kickstarter. All the links are going to be in the description. And until then, keep on being the best Beelzebuds ever. Creep it real. We will catch you next time.